Super Bowl first.
Welcome back to the Old Bull and Young Calf Boston Sports
I'll do the
Podcast.
spon- I'll do the sponsors.
Well, we already started. So my dad, very important. We get the sponsors in, but we can at least talk about real quick what we're going to touch on today. This is like, I don't know, the day after Christmas. We got a little gift last night. Moral victory for us Patriots fans, and I know for my dad and I. And self-aware, we're haters. We are 100% haters. It's good to see the person we are hating on struggle, and that was nice to happen. And we're going to touch on the Bruins. I mean, sound the alarm. Not looking great. Everybody else that needs to do bad is doing better than them. We're going to touch on that. And the Boston Celtics. Everyone was doom and gloom. They lost to, some junk teams. Some other teams gave them a hard time, but when the rubber met the road, in these last couple of games, they really showed that the league who's boss. So we're going to touch on that. Now, my dad mentioned the sponsors. So what do you got for sponsorships tonight, Dad?
So if you need an amazing therapist in the Pinellas County area in Florida, my man Will McCormick is the guy you want to see. If you need a tasty, refreshing beverage, Moonlight Boba in St. Pete, Florida. My girlfriend Siobhan has an amazing store down there. My cousin Abigail in Grafton, Massachusetts. Sip and Share? I always get it wrong.
Sip and
What is it?
savor. You're savoring it.
Sip and Savor. Oh, Sip and Savor. Yeah, way to go, old man. Of course I botched that. But anyway, and yep, if you want your company name, just let us know and doesn't cost you anything. We'll just mention it. And yeah, on with the show and the
Yes.
celebration.
Yeah. So last night, I mean, I went to that game. There was a lot of hesitancy for me because the Chiefs winning 3 in a row was going to be a difficult conversation piece that I was going to have to deal with for the rest of my life as I defend Tom Brady as the greatest quarterback of all time, which is my duty as a Patriots fan. He provided me with the Super Bowls, the joy, the experiences with my dad. I must defend his football legacy. And that's was something that was going to be a bit tougher if the Chiefs won last night. Now, not only did they lose, that they lost 40-6. You can look at the final score and say 40-22. No. They lost 40-6. They had the Gerard Mayo, Jacoby Brissett special where they had some junk stuff at the end. That does not count. That is one of the most one-sided Super Bowls I think I've ever seen in my life. I would have loved to have one of those as a Patriots fan because we absolutely never got those, right, Dad? And now here we are. How'd you feel about that game, Dad?
Oh, it was always one of my. I mean, talk about spoiled. Like Ripes was. Can we? And I used to say before every game after the first few Super Bowls, I'm like, can we get one Patriots blowout so we could just relax and start celebrating early? We never got one of those, but that's all right. I'm not complaining. I mean, that game was just absolutely fantastic to see. Not just Kansas City get their loss and breaking up those 3 Super Bowls in a row, but to get their butts handed to them was just so amazing. Because I trust me, I tune it out. I can't listen to Mahomes. Maybe he's already the GOAT, and this is up. Maybe this is already better than the Patriots dynasty. I can't listen to that crap. I like you said, Matt. I'm a baby. I'm a hater. I don't want to hear it. And man, did I need this. This is just, I got some pep in my step today, baby. Walking around after watching that shellacking.
Oh,
And of
yeah.
course, we'll bring up all the obvious about, the comparisons to the Chiefs and Patriots.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that was pretty sweet was Tom Brady being on that cast. That's my first game I really watched with Tom Brady. And great to hear, some of his anecdotes. He does stumble here and there, right? But he's human.
Oh, yeah.
But I do appreciate his insight, and it also was nice that they really highlighted a lot of his past and experiences. And talking about our Super Bowls, man, it would have been nice to have an easy one, but those close ones made for some extra special moments. If you were an Eagles fan last night, when do you celebrate? Right? I mean, you spend the first half celebrating, but man, I wish we had better access to cell phones and stuff during the like the Seahawks Super Bowl. Nobody was recording that. We went nuts. I mean, that interception, right? That was special. And just like the Falcons, I mean, both of those, Dad, I mean,
Oh yeah. I mean, the house was shaking. I mean, literally, the house was shaking. And the old bull, his tradition back when he was living in Mass, strip down to his underwear and do snow angels in the neighbor's yard. They'd actually be looking for it and cheering for me from their windows.
yeah.
So yeah, those are the glorious days. And man, that Malcolm Butler interception,
Oh
that
yeah.
overtime win against Atlanta, the greatest comeback in sports
James
history.
White. Yep.
Oh man, there was some tackle football going on in that living room because we were
Uh,
just so full of joy. It was
that was so
amazing,
special. So
absolutely.
special. And
Yeah.
I mean, now how do the Patriots get there, right? And my dad talked about the comparison between the Patriots and the Chiefs. Dad, do you want to talk about what we've maybe learned from that game, or do you want to talk about the two dynasties and comparing those two? Which way do you want to go with that?
I'd like to go in both directions. I mean, the comparisons like this. I mean, the
Yeah,
old
let's do
bull's
that
not
first.
coming up this by himself. I've heard this many times today, and that's Brady's never gotten blown out in a Super Bowl. And the most fascinating thing I read today was Tom Brady has walked off the field in all 10 of his Super Bowls with the lead. Think about that. I mean, one disclaimer is he technically did it against the Falcons, but he still sealed the deal and won the game and completed the comeback in overtime. But 10 Super Bowls, Tom Brady walked off the field with a lead. Think about that. Mahomes got his doors blown off in two of his Super Bowls, wasn't even competitive. And again, I don't want to hear about the offensive line. Yeah, he couldn't block. Yeah, you know who else couldn't block? The Patriots offensive line against those two Giants teams. Okay? Because they did the same thing. They were able to get to Brady constantly, rush him every time he dropped back to pass with only four rushers and would even keep seven guys in coverage. And Tom still managed to have the lead in the fourth quarter in both those games. So I don't want to hear any of that crap. Mahomes choking. Two, like you said, Matt, those padded stats, those garbage padded stats. Those two interceptions were absolute backbreakers in that first half and just crushed their souls. And I mean, again, Brady never did that. He had that one pick six against Atlanta, but hey, he dusted himself off the mat. He stood up and he came back with a
Yeah.
vengeance.
Oh man, Tom Brady's not walking through that door. That's what Andy Reid should have said at halftime because Patrick Mahomes was not Tom Brady in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
And I mean, Tom Brady was
yeah.
highlighting it. His feet, he had happy feet in the pocket. He had no idea what to do. And I mean, a couple really questionable throws. I know one of the stats that I shared with my dad and Pete DePadua today was Mahomes now has surpassed Tom Brady in interceptions in the Super Bowl, and that is in half the amount of games. Tom Brady 10 Super Bowls, less interceptions than Patrick Mahomes. And here's another thing: Patrick Mahomes is 0-2 when there is a holding call called on his offensive line in a Super Bowl. I think that's a pretty interesting stat. I think it also kind of lends to the fact that maybe when the refs are in Patrick Mahomes' favor, and you really telling me they went 3 games with no holding whatsoever in
Yeah, get out of here
those
with
other three
that.
wins? No. So the refs, I think that it went the opposite way. Do you think the refs, maybe we're like, hey, we got to kind of really compensate for this garbage? Because I think there were some BS calls on the Chiefs.
Well, we touched on this the last show. We said it's
Yeah.
been so slanted in the Chiefs' favor. It's been so bad that I said on the biggest stage, they can't allow it. The leagues and the refs cannot allow this game to be decided by a call in the Chiefs' favor because there would be legitimate investigations, I felt like, because it's been that horrendous. And they did have that one bad call against the Eagles at
Pass
was it against
interference.
Brown during the
Yep.
game, but otherwise, I don't feel like it was in the Eagles' favor. I just felt like they called it correctly. I think the refs just called it by the book.
I think there was
What'd
like
you think, Matt?
I think so. Number one, I think the AJ Brown call was so soft, so soft that the refs on the
Yeah.
biggest stage in the world, right? Not in the world, I guess technically. There's a couple soccer games that are bigger. On the biggest stage in America, two of the best that in the league, AJ Brown and McDuffie, going at it. McDuffie gets out muscled, and you call an offensive pass interference on a big third down like that when the Eagles make a ballsy play. I thought that was so soft. I think that the refs calling that kind of what was it? Unsportsmanlike conduct on the tight end when the guy kind of went up for the ball and they like incidental contact with the helmet. I think you probably could have left that out. Um, I think the Chiefs got away with a couple offsides. I don't know if you saw that. They did catch him on one of them, which ended up being
Yeah.
a big deal. But there was a few times when the Chiefs were completely lined up over the ball, past the ball on the edge. And so overall,
It must be a Spagnola thing because they had that big offsides against the Patriots too in that AFC Championship game. That's for sure.
yeah.
But
So
I mean, and you know what? Another thing, Matt. Let's put a stop to the um, Kelsey greater than Gronkowski talk because yeah, his numbers might be a little better, but boy, it certainly looked like the Chiefs could have used a tight end with the run blocking and pass blocking ability of Gronkowski, and because they were just a sieve. Kelsey is, like you said earlier in a text message, he's just basically a bulky wide receiver. He couldn't block me on a bad leg. He can't block anybody. And people just want to discount that like it's no big deal. Gronk was a force. He was a force when it came to run blocking. He was a force when they asked him to stay in and pass block. He took some of the best pass rushers in the league and would have stalemates against them. That's a big advantage. That's a big deal. And you know, Gronk's 2 Super Bowls, he had a major, major impact against the Seahawks and against the Rams. Didn't feel like Kelsey had much of an impact yesterday, did
no,
he?
I mean, of course, I'm having a hard time finding all of it, but here's a perfect little microcosm of the garbage. So, this is the strip sack, right? At this point, the game was pretty much over. Watch Kelsey up here at the top of the screen, right? What do you think he should do, considering the amount of pressure? What do you think he should?
At
What do you
least
think
chip
he
the
should?
guy.
At least chip the guy. Let's see what Kelsey,
Yeah.
the greatest tight end of all time, does. Literally gone. No, like you don't touch me, I don't touch you.
All he cares about is catching passes.
Runs
That's all
into
he
two
cares about.
guys and then
Yep.
strip sack. So, I mean, from a fan standpoint, I would encourage you if you were, somebody who watched the game, go back and watch all the sacks. I was looking for a highlight reel of all the sacks. Kelsey does not help even an ounce. And I think that's the thing. You have this guy who's bigger than the game in Travis Kelsey. Taylor Swift is bigger than the Chiefs. She's bigger than anything in football. She's a worldwide phenomenon. They
Most
cannot
popular
have
person on the planet. Yeah.
her boy toy blocking. That's not good for the ratings. What they need is catches, and Travis Kelsey did what he always does, runs by the defender,
Yep.
doesn't even bother touching him. Gronk puts that defender on his butt. How many times have we seen Gronk take a defensive player of the year candidate and just make him sit down in the grass for a couple seconds before he runs a seam route and burns whatever corners on him? So, I mean, another
And Ron
chalk up.
Stevenson.
Oh, what's up,
Great
Ron?
comment here. Haven't
I
seen
never
Ron in a while. It's good to see you, my friend.
I never
Absolutely
had
great comment here too. Gronkowski was the Shaq
the
of the
Shack,
NFL.
100%.
That's what Ron Stevens hinting at here. And never had to deal with baby calls. Gronk played hard, old school football. Gronkowski could have drawn probably 300 more pass interference
And
calls
holding.
if they
Yep.
were like just basically because he was a man amongst boys. There was so many times he was getting pass interfered with that they just didn't call. It would have been like calling a foul every time somebody touched Shaq. Like you're technically supposed to call it. In basketball, you're not supposed to
Yeah.
touch the player when they're shooting. And like the refs would have literally had to call a foul almost every time Shaq got the ball. Gronk was very similar. There's very few times where Gronk had a defender on him that wasn't like having you're not supposed to have contact with the receiver while he's going for his patent. Going for the you're not supposed to, but he dealt with that all the time. So, that's another great point by Ron.
And Brady's best game ever was yesterday. He would always be the GOAT. Yeah, I mean,
It
Ron,
was in his head.
at this point, Ron, anybody like, Mahomes still has to win 4 more to be tied with Brady. But having the head to head with Brady 0-2 when it matters most, and then also having these 2 blowout losses on his record, that's going to be tough. Brady's the real
Holmes
freaking
has to
deal.
win 5 more. He has to.
Yeah,
Because we just said you made up a great point, Matt, and that's the tiebreaker. They went head to head in the Super Bowl and Brady beat him. So even if they both end up with 7, nope, We get the tiebreaker. Mahomes, you want to pass Brady? You want to be the GOAT? You better hit 8. You better hit 8 Super Bowls.
Yeah. Hey guys, sorry I'm late. What's up, Jeff Unknown? Good to see you. The guy, this has already been said, but I feel the GOAT conversation has been put to rest. Gosh, I hope so, Jeff. And Jeff,
Now,
statistically,
yeah.
Mahomes has continuously had worse and worse seasons, and next year his cap is $66 million. So best of luck to this Chiefs team, who's going to hemorrhage players at this point. Trey Smith, that really star guard that they had, one of the better parts of their line, he's probably gone because they just can't afford him. And hey, he played lazy, social guy, never happened. Yep. Yeah. I mean, Jeff, it sucks the Lions weren't in this game, but man, that Eagles team was a wagon, right? And so that Eagles team, and I think that this is a good transition, right? That Eagles team has the best of both worlds. They run the trenches. So, Ron, I'm curious from your standpoint, which would you rather have? That Eagles offensive line or that Eagles defensive line? I can tell you this. I think it's a pretty clear answer. Ron, I'm going to let you think on that. Maybe you can answer before you hear my answer. It's definitely the offensive line. That offensive line is legit. You want that offensive line. That offensive line is a one-on-one, one of one, right? But with that said, you can't have it. Nobody can have it. That offensive line is special. So when you have the opportunity, I think there's an opportunity, that like that. This kind of made me want Abdul Carter more. I'm happy the Eagles won. Everyone was saying "Go Birds." Everyone was super excited for the Eagles. I did not mind it at all. But I really
For
liked
two Eagles.
I really liked seeing Mahomes running for his life, and I want to see more of the other quarterback doing that. And man, it makes me want to get Abdul Carter. It makes me want to go out and get Khalil Mack. Any thoughts on the build of this Super Bowl champion Eagles team, Dad, and what you would like to try and emulate?
I mean, it just shows you the line of scrimmage how important it is. And still, make no mistake about it, it's still not 1980. Saquon Barkley didn't have a great game.
No.
He was, and it's still all about the passing game. But it just shows you the line of scrimmage still affects the passing game. Hurts had time, and he throws up an MVP performance. I think he had like 5 incompletions, something like that, the entire
Yeah.
game. Mahomes didn't have time. He looked like Jacoby Brissett out there. Like literally until he started padding his stats, he looked like Jacoby Brissett earlier this year. So it's still pass game is what rules in the NFL. But line of scrimmage, it basically reflects how your passing game's going to be. And I think this, I get where you see that pass rush, Matt, and you salivate, and you have that envision with Barmore probably and Keon White, and then Abdul Carter. Yep, that's going to be a pretty good pass rush, especially if you like throw a free agent like the Eagles sweat in. We
Khalil
should
Mack, yeah,
go to
Khalil
bank with
Mack or
that guy.
Sweat. Yep.
But again, I look at it the other way. Like, look at Mahomes, how like mortal he looked with a garbage performance from the offensive line. Look how awesome Hurts looked with an amazing offensive line giving him time. Hurts is nowhere near the quarterback Mahomes is. You wouldn't have known it by last night's game, and it was all because of the time they had. So to me, I'm even more
Yep.
convinced. I want the white bread mayonnaise first pick, our first pick, that big pick to be left tackle, baby.
Yeah.
I
So
start building
yes.
that offensive line and giving Drake May some time to sit back, get comfy, and start zipping that ball around.
Hey, Jeff Unknown, if I'm being honest, I'm biased. You are biased, but you're not wrong. Detroit Lions offensive line could go toe to toe with Philly. However, the defense is, yeah, I actually forgot Detroit.
Yeah.
Detroit
Oh
is
yeah.
does make Eagles not so much a one of one on the in the offensive line department. Detroit has a legit offensive line. Mike Cutler,
That's a great point, Matt. Jeff,
go ahead.
that's right. Like, look at the Lions. They have the second best record in the league, and they also have an awesome offensive line and defensive line.
Yep.
So, that stuff is important. Yeah, Mike Cutler. I love
Vic
Mike.
Fangio, the nightmare that he was suffering from the Kansas City Chiefs before last game's 0-8. They talked about how he showed, I think the last Super Bowl loss to the defense or something like that, and like a pin dropped in the room. It messes with you. And Tom Brady always says that those losses are the worst. the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, waking up the next day to what you thought was a nightmare. So Vic Fangio shaking off the demons in the biggest way possible.
Hey, good
and
for him. Like, 1 second, Matt.
yeah,
He obviously knew he did a great job coaching from simply never blitzing. The Eagles didn't blitz once. How insane is that? I mean, Mahomes was running for his life the entire game, and Fangio, hey, give the guy credit. He figured out, no, 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 no. With our front four against their five, we don't need to blitz. We're going to keep seven back in coverage, and man, it worked. They had
yeah,
that team shut out until like the fourth quarter.
yeah. Tim with the go birds. Tim. I mean, seriously, you had
So
to you
hard
had
to
to
say.
yeah, you had to throw it up. But man, I mean, a second Super Bowl win for the Eagles. Likable team. Hurts. I have no problem with him. Barkley suffering through the garbage that was the New York Giants. Oh, and you know what? Their owner is a a Massachusetts native. Went to college around here, so I know he has some eyes on the Celtics. Championship pedigree right there. We got Ron. I honestly don't think the Eagles' offensive line wasn't close to Patriots. Pats win and Mahomes lost. Uh, End of the
Oh,
day,
he's talking about the old offensive lines
yeah,
for the Patriots. I tell you what, Ron, as someone who studies offensive line plays, watches the games multiple times throughout the week, I'm telling you, Brady with his quick release and short pass game, that death by a thousand paper cuts, he covered up for a lot of deficiencies. Matt Light, Nate Soldier, those guys were nowhere near as good as you think they were. Like, Patriots fans have no idea. There were times I would see those guys get absolutely flat out
yeah,
beat right off the snap. But because the 5 yard out to Edelman, gone in a half a second, nobody notices, because the
yeah.
guy lets up and because he's two steps away from Brady. And I've never the only time I ever seen Brady behind a dominant offensive line, the only time was actually his last Super Bowl with the Patriots. That 2018 team when Trent Brown was really good at left tackle. That's what the key was, really. They could
That
run
Bucks
block.
team had a
They
good
oh,
offensive line.
they made that Sony Michel look like, Barry Sanders because his holes were enormous. The guy was like 5 yards down the field without anyone touching him. And Tom had time to sit back and throw. That's why he
Yeah,
had that epic game in Kansas City.
yeah,
They had some good pass rushes with D Ford and those guys. So that's the only time I've seen Brady with that. But man,
yeah.
that Eagles offensive line, like Matt said, I think it's special too.
Yeah, Tim's Australian. He lives here in the United States right now, but first Australian ever win a Super Bowl, that Jordan guy. Tim, can you make a call? One Australian to another. Tell that guy to demand a trade. Say, I want to go to the
Yeah.
Patriots or bust. Come
Oh,
on, Tim. That guy is a monster. And he's again
I would
a
love him
major
at right tackle. Oh,
he's at left tackle. Would you honestly
either
like
tackle.
did you hear his name at all last night other than when they were calling him a giant when they were comparing like the sizes of the offensive lines? Super quiet. You don't really hear that too much. Verdi and Lowe's name was said way too much this year. The talk of how much of a carousel our offensive line was way too much of a talk. And going back to Vic Fangio from Mike Cutler. This is what I'm hoping we can get with Josh McDaniels, right? Vic Fangio's never going to be a coach in the NFL again, right? He's a
Yeah.
career coordinator at this point, and they don't have to worry about anybody poaching him. Meanwhile, they got Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore's going out the door. He's going to probably go to the Saints. I know they're trying to keep him, but that's the detriment when you have these coordinators who are performing well in their position. We're not going to have that with Josh McDaniels. So I'm really excited for Josh McDaniels. I'm hoping Josh McDaniels can be a long-term solution with this Patriots team, and he could be with Drake May for a while.
Oh yeah. No, and that's we said that was one of the perks of bringing McDaniel's in, keeping Drake May in the same system. Going forward, that is just a huge advantage to have. The kid's smart. He's got the ability to go with it, and yeah, that's how you know. And going back to Tim's point, that's how offensive lineman is doing an amazing job when you don't hear their name all game. That's how you know. That's how you. Oh, they're doing an amazing job. No holding penalties. They're not getting pancaked. They're not letting guys blow by them. They're just doing their job, and you don't hear. They let the quarterbacks, wide receivers, and running backs get all the glory.
Man, I was Tim. I was hoping it wasn't this guy. This is the guy who they drafted 233rd overall in 2018. He was a rugby player. I guess he was like, top of the line rugby player. Came over, nobody wanted him, and just really morphed into the one of the most important players in the league right now. Left tackle and being at that high of a level. My dad thinks the answer's there with Will Campbell, and I hope it is. One thing, guess what the arm length is of this guy, Dad?
Well, he hasn't got his official combine link,
I
so
know,
we'll
no,
see
I
that.
know.
Yeah, what is it?
Guess what the
33
arm
is
length.
supposed to be the minimum.
Guess what the
What is
arm
it?
length is of the Jordan guy. Can you take a guess what the Jordan guy from Australia is?
I don't know. What is it?
36.
Ooh, that's long.
That is freaking long. That you're not getting anywhere near that guy.
So what is
11 and
Campbell?
Campbell's like, I thought it was like 31.
No, get out of here. Oh, Ron had another comment in there. I think he's talking about the 2017 Super Bowl, Patriots against maybe the Eagles. If he is talking about that, that was just a strange game altogether with the Malcolm Butler thing. Like I would pay like $100, just waste $100 just for like God to tell me what would the score have been if Malcolm Butler played. I would pay like 100, just throw $100 away if God could just whisper in my ear, hey, if Malcolm Butler played, the score would have been blah 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 blah. I mean, I just that will haunt me till the day I die. That freaking Patriots Eagles game. Anyway,
Yeah. Yep. So I mean, we're gonna have to see what Will Campbell's arms are. There's a bit
oh,
of
the
a
Giants game.
oh. Let's
Yeah.
send some scouts to Australia. There are more of these guys there. The big, like, I don't know, what do they call those? They're not Samoans. Samoans is like Pacific Islanders. I don't know what the
Oh,
those, but these freaking giant human beings.
yeah.
I
But
would
Ron,
love
that
to.
that first Giants game, it was an offensive. They had Randy Moss and Welker, and that's where Josh McDaniels was really bad that game. He still insisted on throwing the ball down the field, even though it was so obvious in
Yes.
the Patriots' first two drives they were not going to be able to handle that defensive front of the Giants. People, again, Logan Mankins, one of the most overrated guards in NFL history.
Oh
Because let me
wow.
tell you, that boy choked
Yeah.
twice against the Giants in the Super Bowl. He was a complete no-show. He was a sieve. And and part of it was, when they needed Brady to have an extra second to throw the ball down the field, guys like him, they couldn't do it. They just could not hold. They were always overrated. So that was Ron. It was strange, but that was all part of that dynamic. But Matt,
Yeah.
what did you have?
No, I'm not too sure what Will Campbell's. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what his arm length is. But again, we got a ton of money, guys. Ton of money. So how about this? Which one do you think we could more easily replicate? Their offensive line or the defensive line?
Oh goodness. I mean, if we were to take Abdul Carter and Barmore's healthy and Keon White, and then we bring in a guy like Sweat. I mean, we'll have one of the best front fours on
Yeah.
defense in the league. There's
So
no
I
doubt
did
about that.
I did see Barmore is 100% back next year. I don't know if you saw that. I think they took him out because of just precaution, and he, like, as far as I read somewhere, and we'll get you a source for that at some point on this podcast as we get closer to the season. But Barmore's coming back 100% next year. I don't think they pulled him too much because of blood clots. I think they pulled him more of just like precautionary because they saw the way the season was going. Defense, Mike Cutler, I agree. I think you go get Abdul Carter. That does not mean you don't get Ronnie Stanley from the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, that does not mean you don't go and get Trey Smith. The only issue is Trey Smith does play that right guard position, the same position as Onwenu. Was I left guard or right guard? But whichever position he plays, Onwenu plays that same position. So we'll have to navigate that. And Ron Stevenson, we need a running back. Ron, I love you. Ron is one of the OGs. He's helped to keep this podcast alive in the dog days when my dad was out, gallivanting and playing pickleball and everything. So I appreciate Ron, but I don't know, Ron. Running back, kind of a dime a dozen. I'm not too concerned. I think you saw Saquon Barkley is one of the most talented, athletic people in the world. I think he's top 0.00001%.
He's the best running back in the league right now.
And he
He's better
couldn't
than
do a
Derrick Henry.
freaking thing. He couldn't do a freaking thing with that line because they just stacked
Yeah.
the box, and there was nothing they could do about it. So
They focus on stopping him, and that's kind of what happened. But Ron's right about offense. Mike Cullen, I'm sorry. You, my son, you're all
well, wait,
wrong. I care
Remember the
about
question. Remember
Drake
the question.
May. Drake May. Okay, you guys want to use all our big assets on defense? You want to see this poor kid get killed again? I want Drake May to want to be here. I want to prove to Drake May, we care about you. We are going to put an offensive line and weapons around you. The quarterback is more important in the NFL than anything. You have to have the quarterback. This prove another Super Bowl that proves it. Jalen Hurts, great game. Mahomes couldn't get any protection. Looked awful. But Patrick Mahomes, listen, we can crap on him all he wants. If he had protection, that's a close game. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is awesome.
That wasn't the
He's
question. That wasn't the
probably
see what
he's
Mike
probably the
was. Wait,
second best quarterback of all time.
Wait.
I
Mike
want to
Cutler's right.
show Drake May.
Time out. Mike
Yeah.
Cutler's right. The question was which one could we more easily emulate, right? And Mike Cutler is right. You know, you keep yapping.
Uh,
Watch out for the bus, Steve. That wasn't the question. Tell him, Mike. Mike, stay on topic. We are closer to the Eagles' defensive line than we are to the Eagles' offensive line. If the opportunity is there to take Abdul Carter, I think you got to take Abdul Carter. We'll see. They can fix the defense quicker. Mike nailed it. Mike, you're me and you right here. Thanks for following the questions, Mike. He goes off the rails sometimes. We got to watch out for that. Going back to what Tim said, Theo wanted to let you know. So Theo's my buddy, Tim's son. His favorite moment of the Super Bowl was Mahomes on the first interception. So good. Chef's kiss. Jackson was going nuts.
Yeah.
My son is born to be a football fan. His
Oh
energy,
yeah.
he's locked in. He understands. Can our boys please get a good football team, Tim? Because I could just tell they would eat it up. I'm sure Theo would be all about a good Patriots team, and I know Jackson is dying. Jackson was cheering his head off when the Patriots blew the first overall pick. He was so excited to see
Listen,
a Patriots win because he really hasn't
yeah.
seen much in his memorable life.
Absolutely. And Mike Cutler, I apologize for you being wrong, my friend. I'm sorry. I just
My
breaks
gosh,
my
Mike.
heart to say that to you. And Ron Stevenson, you got the quarterback, build around him. Absolutely. Do you want Drake May demanding a trade in year 4? Don't you want him to sign that big extension after he's given us hopefully a Super Bowl and a few great years? Don't you want that guy to feel like he's valued and protected and can have shoot himself to elite quarterback? He's not doing it without time. You have to have time. Doesn't matter. Patrick Mahomes is the second best quarterback probably of all time, and look what happened when he didn't have time.
I know. Listen. Mike Cutler's not saying
you have to get an offensive line.
Mike Cutler's not saying we don't need to get an offensive line. That Mike Cutler was answering the question that was asked, right? So I'm sure Mike wants to protect Drake May. It'd be silly otherwise. So Ron Stevenson is telling me, is talking some smack. Ron, you're not wrong, and that's a great point. Running backs are a dime a dozen? Question mark. That's basically Ron saying. Eagles had the best, Ravens had the second best, and both of them made it pretty darn far in the NFL playoffs. And Ron, I would love a running back, but there's a lot out there. Go ahead, Dad.
I have a theory on that,
Shut off
Ron,
Steve's mic.
and
Listen.
I think those two teams were basically taking advantage of the situation, kind of like the 2018 Patriots were, which is every defense now is designed and loaded to stop the pass. So the 2018 Patriots, they went against the grain. They got this roadblock, run blocking offensive line, Sony Michel behind it, a lot of play action with Brady. And I think what happened was the Ravens in Philly were kind of smart. They went and got Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, beefed up offensive lines. And yeah, they're taking advantage of NFL defenses today, which are put together strictly to stop the pass. So I think the running backs are still so when you're in that situation, you got a good run blocking offensive line and you got elite running backs. You can take advantage of it. But the bottom line was Saquon Barkley still didn't have much of an impact yesterday. And Derrick Henry, Baltimore, once again, falls flat on their face. But it would be nice, though, Ron. It would be nice to get another elite running back. I just don't want him. Don't touch my first 3-round picks. 4th round, get that running back. I'm all for those guys. That's the one I will take. But I did answer the defensive question. You said, what is what's the easiest for the Patriots to emulate? I said, well, they
Yeah.
got Barmore, they got Keon White, so it would probably be the defensive line. But
Yeah,
my
and
focus,
so
I
you agree
want
with Mike
offensive
Cutler.
line.
You agree with Mike Cutler. Mike Cutler said the same thing.
King,
It's easier to replicate
king.
that. Uh Mike Cutler nailed it. So Ron Steven, if the Patriots didn't give up the first round pick like that, and then he also said Mahomes is going to be just like Dak from Dallas going forward. Get hurt, not
He
play,
could be.
be lazy. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And Ron, also, I don't know if you kept up with college football at all, but there's one guy I would love to get in like the fifth, fourth round. Maybe fourth might be too high. We'll see. His name's Cam Skedaboo, and he threw for a touchdown. He caught a touchdown, and he ran for a touchdown. He had like almost 300 total yards in the college football playoff. Almost beat Texas single handedly. Um, I would like to get that guy.
Are you
If we
sure
can
he's
get,
in this draft? He's not like
he's
a
a
freshman or a sophomore?
he is 100% in this draft. He was actually like
Yeah.
he's one of like the older running
Fine.
backs.
As long as
Yeah,
they don't take him in the first 3 rounds. That's all I care about. Your first 3 rounds should go to vital players. In other words, quarterbacks, wide receivers, tackles, pass rushers, cornerbacks. That is
yeah,
the only positions you should ever draft in the first 3 rounds. Safeties, running backs, guards, linebackers, fourth round on. That's
yeah,
that's the way it should be. I'm sorry.
yep. Listen, Mike's throwing you a bone here. Throwing you a bone here, Steve. You are a twisted steel and sex appeal. He's not here for the takes. I'll tell you. I don't know what he's here for. He's more here for the background than anything. We like those signed pictures, but yeah, I mean,
I
we're
love I
30.
love Mike.
Yeah,
Mike's a great guy. You know what Mike Cutler is, right?
no. Oh, is that?
Remember Cindy?
Oh, that's Cindy's.
Cindy's ex-husband.
Yeah, yeah. You and Mike. I mean, oh.
Oh, God bless that man. God bless that man. I'll just say that.
Y-
But anyway,
Mike is twisted steel and sex appeal too. He's
yeah,
just
he is.
you guys have both weathered a storm, I guess you could say. The tight end from Notre Dame should be the first pick for the Pats. All right, I don't know.
What,
I don't know
Ron at
what's
number
going for Ron.
4
You should
overall?
you should take Ron's keys. There's a tight so the tight end for Notre Dame, Mitchell Evans, 6'5", 260. He's right now
He's
ranked.
gonna go like in the first round, I think.
No, he's
But
not. No,
he
he's
can't.
not. No, he's
He's
not.
not. Oh,
He's
well, he's
ranked
in the second round.
116. 116. He's not probably not going in the second round either. The number
Oh
one tight end
no.
is
Okay.
another one tight end is it's a guy named Tyler Warren. He's the fifth overall rank.
What school?
Penn State.
Oh, old schools like Penn State. I was getting that mixed up. Notre Dame.
Mike
Okay,
wants to make
that's
sure
just an
we know
old
it's
man problem.
X. Yes,
Old
Mike.
man problem. Yeah.
No.
Ron, I don't know. Like Hunter Henry and
Hooper.
what's his name?
Hooper.
They did pretty good. Like bring Hooper back on another cheap contract. We have Hunter Henry. Like a second round pick, Ron. That's gotta go to. We have so many glaring needs at really important positions. That second round pick has to be like a wide receiver, a corner, a tackle, you know, something like that. It has to be a big time position. That's hard and an impact player. Tight end, we got two pretty good ones, and that Bell kid showed promise too. So,
Yeah,
they drafted in the 6th round last year.
and we're gonna do so much on the draft. They still have that Florida tight end. Oh yeah,
Yeah, Bell.
Yaheem Bell.
Yep.
Yaheem Bell. You're right, Mike. Don't forget
Yep.
that guy. We were kind of excited about him. It was kind of a sneaky pick. I definitely like that guy. And things are kind of changing. I'm trying to find my share button here. We're gonna have so much draft talk. Like, I mean, like right now, we've all been talking about Will Campbell. Will Campbell's now fallen to the third tackle position. These other guys are
What?
jumping. Yeah.
Get out of here. That's
Josh
garbage.
Simmons.
What site is this? Matt.com? Give me a break.
Josh Connery.
That's
Will
ridiculous.
Simmons dropped all the way on the 14th overall.
Banks isn't even there. This is garbage.
Banks is right
Get
below.
outta here. When was this mock draft done?
This is
Is
ESPN.com
this like from
right
last
now.
year before the season started? Yeah.
So we're going to talk about
ESPN's rankings. That's ridiculous.
ESPN. And I mean, this is listen. Don't poo-poo ESPN's rankings because you and I could say firsthand if we just went off of best available, we'd have a much better team to date
Oh yeah,
because ESPN is not usually that wrong. The Patriots try to make ESPN look stupid, and then we end up with
and
players
they
like Cole
fail
Strange. Yeah,
all the time.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely, complete disaster. So yeah,
yeah,
no, I again, I have always said that you give me a laptop and show up an hour before the draft, and I guarantee you I'll have a better draft than the Patriots every single time. Last year, I absolutely positively would have taken Drake May. I've said that in the show a million times. I was taking whatever the three quarterbacks, and I guarantee you, I would have did better with the rest of their picks than what they did because the rest of their picks were a complete absolute crap show.
yeah. Well, Pats didn't have a young or prime wideout. Gronk and Hernandez. I remember when they traded Randy Moss. I was devastated. I was like, how do you get rid of Randy Moss when this Gronkowski and this Hernandez kid? You're expecting so much out of him. Blah blah blah. What was your reaction to that Randy Moss trade? Does anybody here have or call their reaction? I know I was pissed. I was arguing with
Yeah,
some people at school. I was in high
he
school at
wasn't
that point.
producing like he did. He had lost a step, so it wasn't that much. And they were looking like they were on their way to the Super Bowl that year. They blew out the Jets by like 40 points, and then they played the Jets in like the second round coming up.
Yeah,
And the
and
Patriots had a
lost.
bye, and they just freak lost. So that was another just weird year. But yeah, I mean, if we keep the fourth pick, Mike, I I still want to tackle. If the Patriots feel like they can get Campbell or Banks and trade down a little bit, I'm all for that too. Those are the two tackles I want. I don't know where Matt's getting this new data with these two offensive linemen jumping those two from. Every other site I'm seeing, the mock draft has those two tackles going in the top 12, and then there's another like tier of a fall where the next tackles are going in the 20s. And this is supposed to not be a great left tackle draft. It's supposed to be Campbell, Banks, and a pretty steep drop after that. So I'm cool with trading down as long as we get one of those two left tackles. So
Yeah, Mike, I was like 16 at the time, 17 at the time. So maybe I wasn't too tapped into the social aspect of it, but I was really bummed to see Randy Moss go because I mean he gave me some pretty awesome experiences watching that team. I mean, I watched the highlights of that Tennessee Titans snow game the other day.
oh yeah.
Man, Moss was something special. Notre Dame tight end. He's old. They have a senior kid named Mitchell Evans. Ron. I don't know what the heck's up with this mock draft ESPN has, but it does seem very off compared to what I initially expected. But it has this Mitchell Evans kid going super later. I would not mind getting some skill position players in the draft, especially for Drake
Yeah,
May,
just
because
tight
yeah,
uh, tight end, I'm just happy with Hunter Henry. I just, we need our wide receiver room is so barren. It's just so barren. And I've been looking at tons of mock drafts, and yeah, it's just those those two tackles, and there is a drop off after that. I really don't want to mess around. And my worry about Staley from the Ravens are he's older, right? Does he get this will be his final payday, like final big contract. He's probably going to get 50 million as a signing bonus. Does he pull in a Wenu and come into camp fat and lazy after getting his, big fat contract? He's not like a young guy. I don't know. Like that has a lot to prove. If they sign that guy, well then yeah, you can't draft a left tackle, obviously, with the fourth overall pick. You have to go in another direction. But if they don't get a top tier, they don't get Staley or the other guy. Who's the other guy? The Rams, I think, have a left tackle possibly on the market.
we would
If
have
they
to
don't
double
get
check.
like
Yeah,
a veteran, like a top 10 veteran left tackle in free agency or a trade, I just feel like they have to use that first pick on a left
yep,
tackle.
yep. So, I mean, 44 minutes in, and again, we usually let you guys drive the content. Love talking, with you guys, Mike, Ron, Tim showing
And
up, Jeff
Mike's
Unknown.
right. Moss was becoming a pain in the ass. He
Yep,
was, yes, at
yep.
the time. That was
So,
part of the trading him too. He was a distraction.
I mean, I don't really think we really need to even touch on the Bruins. They're going to the Four Nations break. They sent Poitras down to play some games with the AHL, which I respect. And initially, I was
That's
pissed, and then
fine as long as they bring him
yeah,
back up. Yeah.
initially I was pissed, but then it made more sense once I realized. So he's going back down to get some reps in. Um, They are in. Oh, what's up, Kurt? Kurt, every time I swear I
Kurt
live
Rams.
I live a minute from Greendale's. Every time I drive by Greendale's, Kurt, I think of you and your band, No Alibi. So shout out to you, Kurt. I'm always wondering if you're in there rocking out. Um,
The
we're
only
just
problem, Kurt, is my son has not had a sip of alcohol in his life.
yeah.
So he
I
does
don't like
not
alcohol.
partake in Greedale's malarkey, that's for sure.
I went to the liquor store on New Year's and I'm walking around aimlessly. I had no idea what I was doing. And this guy came up to me and he actually remembered me. I coached his nephew in basketball and he's like, "What are you looking for?" I'm like, "I'm just looking for like some sort of vodka." I bought a thing of Grey Goose like this much to get mixed
Legos is
drinks.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to make mixed drinks. My wife made one. She took like a couple sips, and was staring at the mixers and the vodka. It's New Year's Eve, and I'm just like, nah, no thanks. I just walked away. I was like, this is, and I actually ran into him at basketball. He's like, hey,
Yeah.
he's like, I haven't seen you back at the liquor store. I'm like, you're not gonna, because I can't find anything that makes me want to drink.
Yeah.
It's not for it. Maybe if I had some no alibi, so get it going, I could find my groove. Don't have to drink. We just won't sound
Just
as
want to
good.
sound as good.
Yeah.
They're awesome. I
Yeah.
God, I miss seeing those guys. They were all my all-time favorite cover band. I like them even more than Probable Cause and the other bands that are up there. Absolutely love those guys. Kurt, I made arrangements a couple times to be there when you were supposed to have a show, but the shows got canceled. You're killing me up there.
Listen, he's a busy
I
man.
was
Okay, doesn't have time for you
is
anymore.
a busy
Okay,
man.
he's ascended. Okay,
Yeah,
maybe when my dad becomes a full fledged published author, Kurt will not be able to turn you down. So hopefully, there's the gears are moving in that way. So keep thinking and sending positive energy, prayers, hopes to the old bull as he continues to try and secure a book
yeah.
deal. Miss you so much, man. I know. Yeah, Kurt. One of these
Miss you
times, you
too,
guys will
brother.
link up.
Yeah. If
So
you guys have Patriot stuff you want to keep throwing at us, you can keep
yeah.
throwing at it. We'll respond. But I did want to touch on the Celtics, right? Just a little bit. I mean, two really significant statement wins. And they had crap crap loss against Dallas where the Celtics clearly looked like they were not interested in playing. So shame on them because Dallas was so shorthanded and they're coming back from a long road trip. But the other two games where you could tell the Celtics were like, I don't know, we want these guys at Cleveland with their best record in the league in their house, and then New York, cocky New York, who's been playing better lately and wanted some payback. They were saying after we blew them out in the first game of the year. Oh man, that was like Patrick Mahomes type slacking that the Celtics laid on those two teams.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
those are absolutely great.
Yep. I mean, at this point, can you read me the book? I'm Dad. You should really do an audio book. Read it. I'm sure, and like people would like people, have you narrate your own book. Maybe do that.
With my nasally Boston accent, I don't think that would sell well.
Yep.
People would listen to the sample and they'd run. Absolutely
Yeah.
not.
So you got the New York Knicks 2-0 against them. So we beat them by what is that? 23 in the first game and
Oh,
27 in the next game. That's a lot of points. Last
yeah.
night, Nick Cattles was saying Pat should go after Debo just to attract AJ as they are best friends. I do you
Oh, I don't mind
so
that.
I don't mind that at all. I'm curious, Kurt. Kurt, Ron, my dad. Do you think this Super Bowl win gets AJ Brown out of Philadelphia, or does that kind of make it a confirmation that he's staying there long term?
It could. He's got his ring. I mean, Kurt, if they're really truly best friends, and that's a possible thing, we get the cap space. Bring those two guys in here. Holy cow! You talk about upgrading, and then you draft a left tackle. And boy, now you're cooking. Man, maybe spend some money at right tackle too. We have the cap space to do it. Now your offense is completely revamped. Can you imagine uh Pop Douglas is like our third receiver behind those
Eh,
two? That'd be pretty awesome. That's now you're talking a really good receiving core. Kurt, I'm all on board with that. And then you throw Hunter Henry in there. And then
Debo,
Tim,
go ahead, Dad.
yeah, no, go ahead. Give me a Debo, man.
Yeah, Debo is such a drama queen. I don't know if you saw the clips coming
He
out this
is.
year of him like getting in his kicker's face and everything like that. And you know what? He's not remotely as good as he used to be. They ran him into the ground. They treated him like a running back. A lot of his yards are
They
behind the
did.
line of scrimmage,
Yeah.
yards after catch.
But if he brings AJ Brown here, it's worth it to overpay him a little bit for a couple of years. So that's all I'm saying. I would be
Yep.
on board with that.
Oh,
You
Was
know,
Debo there repping the Brown in Philly? Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, no, I would love to have both of them. Heck yeah, and we could afford it too. While on the bees are on the
okay.
Four Nation break, the trade deadline is looming. Are we selling? Tim, I'll let my dad answer that because he has an emphatic answer on whether we should or should not sell.
Tim, I mean, two more big losses, and they're in 10th place in the conference. And don't let that fool you. Like teams ahead of them and behind them all have 1 or 2 games in hand. So they're not just 10th. If those other teams win the 2 games that they have in hand, you're talking a big lead on the Bruins and them not making the playoffs. They better. I mean, I just want them selling. I want whatever leads to Don Sweeney getting fired and getting fresh new, thinking in here. That's what I want. If it means suffering through one season where the Bruins aren't in the playoffs, and trust me, that will be so painful because I love playoff Bruins hockey. But if it means getting rid of Sweeney, possibly nearly two, getting a real coach in here and looking like a competent offensive team next year, so be it. That's what I want. They should be selling. This team is not capable of going on a cup run.
Yep.
Swayman could stand on his head. It's just not good enough. It can't score. It can't defend. And it's just, if they like mortgage more draft picks to bring a couple veterans in to squeak into the playoffs and lose in 5 games, that's a disaster. Because Jeremy Jacobs will probably bring Sweeney back if they make the playoffs. I'm telling you now, that's all he cares about is getting the gate for one playoff series. But if he misses that playoff series, misses that 1 year, one season where we don't make it, I think Sweeney could be finally out. So yeah, I want him to sell.
Look at that, Mike Cutler, some small circle. You live in Massachusetts. Connected the dots here. Tim, the season is done now. Tim, I think when you think about being sellers, I think what positive assets do we have, right? And do we want to get rid of them? Which players on our team do we not have to ship a high round pick out with to actually dump the contract? So Zaka, 4.75. We have to send cup picks out with him. Nobody wants them for a
You
cup
think
run.
so?
You think somebody wants
Oh,
Zaka in the playoffs?
what? I mean, maybe they get it. What is his regular season numbers? Are they at least decent?
I'll have to double check.
He went on a little run where I thought his numbers kind of looked a little bloated, better than they really were. I don't know. I mean, some team might take a flyer on him despite his awful 1 goal in like 19 playoff games.
12 goals, 21 assists, 33 points this year. It's not horrible.
In how many
Uh
games? 50 something?
57, 12
Ah,
goals.
I think we could dump him and not have to give up a draft pick. I think somebody with cap space would take him on.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But yeah, you're right. Like Zadorov, we'd have to give up something. Absolutely.
Zadorov had a big
Carlo,
game
we might
last
be able to
game.
get. Yeah, big
But again,
deal.
we have him
Yeah.
forever, so people aren't going to want him. Carlo, I bet you somebody would. Carlo, 4.1 million. That's what his contract is until 2027. Um,
The
Charlie
weird thing
Coyle,
is he has value around the league. Like I hear Carlo, like other teams value him. They don't watch playoff games. They don't watch Bruins playoff games. I tell you what, because last year was the first semi-decent playoff run I've ever seen him have with the Bruins, where he wasn't turning the puck over left and right and tripping over his own skates. And there was still some instances where I was like, "Oh, the old Carlo was back for a period there." So
yeah,
no, I'd get rid of him in a heartbeat too.
yeah. When you see here we go, Tim. Tim, I mean, at this point, we need to do whatever we can to get rid of Zadorov. Tim cannot sleep at night knowing this guy is so close to our
Yeah.
beautiful state's capital. The fact that he's wearing the spoke bee keeps Tim up at night. Tim, we could sell Coyle, Frederick. Oh, I mean, Frederick, you got to consider shipping out. His value is at almost an all time high. I don't know if it's going to get much better. He's walking at the end of this year. We have him for 2.3, unless we want to sign him long term. If you can
Bye
get
bye.
something for him,
See you later.
I would absolutely flip Frederick. Um, And then
Frederick is just the most average hockey player I've ever seen. Like, get Frederick out of here. Yo, yeah, he fights once in a while. But, like, I don't care. Get that guy out of here. He's never gonna. He's on the third line. He has no business being on the third line. He's really a fourth line player. I want nothing to do with it. Get him out of here. I want talent in here. He's not talented.
Frederick has been a
Sorry.
ghost. I mean, yeah, and again, they keep shoving him on the line with Patra and telling Patra to make him
Patras.
look good. And Patra's, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, Kurt Ram's on the same boat. Zadorov is awful. We need like a nice diss track from Kurt Ram on Zadorov, because I'm sure that would make Tim happy, because that guy is a long term a Boston Bruin. I mean, not an unrestricted free agent till 2030. That is rough. Zadorov makes every other man, every other D man worse. I think Carlo looks worse because of him. My dad gives Carlo a lot of flack. I don't think Carlo's as bad as my dad likes to make him out to be. I know he kind of.
Carlo's fine in the regular season. I'm telling you, the playoffs, he's a nightmare. He's just awful. He's cost us so many games in the playoffs with subtle little things that nobody notices when we give up goals. I'm telling you, that is Carlo, and that's a real thing. And when he was decent last year, and I admitted it in the playoffs, but he still had his moments where I'm like, yep, there's old Carlo.
Yep. Kurt ran with the Kendrick Lamar. He's not like us. Exactly. Get Zadorov out of here. I mean, the other big problem with hockey is all these people with freaking no move clause, no trade clauses. You got Pavel Zacha with an 8-team no trade list. You got Charlie Coyle.
Was he?
Charlie Coyle cannot be traded. He has a no movement clause.
What?
Yep.
Why would we give those out?
The hockey
That's
gives those out
awful.
like
So
candy.
stupid. Friggin' Sweeney,
Listen,
man.
Jeff, I did not mention Marchand specifically for that. Just I didn't know if Jessica Unknown was lurking, so I wouldn't even broach the subject. You brought it up, Jeff. So while we're here, is there any world where the old bull trades Brad Marchand? Do you flip Brad Marchand for a first round pick today?
No, I would trade Marchand for another team's like kind of top prospect, like another team's Patras. You know what I mean? But like maybe a winger. I would like, yeah, if this guy's like the equivalent to right winged Patras, absolutely. I would trade Marchand for him, get him a young guy in here. We got to start getting young talent in here because we're in the worst case scenario. Not only are we lacking offensive talent, we're old. Like we're getting old. Like that's not good. All that's a bad combination. Like Pasta's up there, Marchand's up there, Zach is up there. Like I don't even know what Geeky is. Like to me, Geeky's just overrated. And
Geeky's 26. He's an old soul.
yeah, I just again, Geeky's just another guy. He's a guy benefiting from playing with Pasternak sometimes, and Geeky belongs on the third line. That's all. That's all I could say about him.
Yeah, I mean, Kurt, I think at some level, it's like doing him a service in trading him. He's actually one of the few guys who does not have a no trade clause. He has an 8-team no trade list. He does not have a no trade clause, which is kind of surprising. I would hate to see him go, but again, you kind of figure out, is he retiring after this year? Is he not retiring? What can you get for him? Because there's a good chance he's gone next year. And do you want to pay him another 6.1 million or I don't know. I don't know how his contract would work out, if you'd want more money for shorter time or what. But I mean, overall, this team is not putting themselves in a great position to succeed. They're not playing like they want to stay together, because if they actually wanted to stay together, there would be a different results on that standings. And right now, you have to do something. Yeah. They already changed the coach. They got rid of a coach of the year winner, and nothing changed. This team went right back to the wishy-washy. Never know what you're going to get or show up to. And I think you got to, like my dad said, fit that Patra Swayman timeline, right? Sadly, you got Elias Lindholm. He's 30.
Low-ride.
You got Pastrnak. He's 28.
Yeah.
Lohrei is getting, and one thing I will give some credit to is Sacco is putting Lohrei in a lot. Lohrei is getting almost more minutes than anybody on that defensive end. By Sacco,
he's got to learn. I don't care if he makes mistakes. He's going to be a number one defenseman someday.
Yeah, and then completely agree, Kurt. Like, bye to Sacco. How the frick do we get rid of Sacco? Sacco crap. We're still working on getting that Disney.
I've been crying for them from day one to get rid of that guy and get someone with a top offensive mind on another team. that's like the assistant coach. Like get somebody, get Sacco out of here, get him out of my face. Just another branch off the Don Sweeney, tree that I just again, we just can't have any change in when it comes to the Boston Bruins. Everything's status quo. Can't shake up anything. Can't rattle any freaking cages. It's just painful. Absolutely painful.
Yep. I mean, we also still have Corpuzalo for another like 4 years too. He's here till 2028. So, I mean,
Really?
that's yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I think it says 25% of his contract is covered um by the what's it called? Sorry, the Senators. But you're still paying.
Right, right.
At this point, I think we have 11.25 million in cap space committed to goalies. Swayman
Yeah.
is performing at a high level, which I do respect, and I appreciate him getting to that level. And it did take him a while. Would have appreciated not having all the garbage arbitration and quote unquote warm up time. It would have been nice to see him in camp, but I guess it is what it is. He got his money. So I mean, we're an hour 1 minute. I'm pretty tired. I got to put the trash out. Do
Yeah.
some homeowner things. I really appreciate everybody coming in. These podcasts are 1,000 times better
Yes.
when we're chatting with you guys. And thanks for taking the time to share your thoughts. Anything else, Dad? You got to say
Yeah, guys, we love you chiming in, joining in the show. You guys are amazing. Your insight's great. If you can comment on Facebook
on
Live,
YouTube?
that helps
On
us
YouTube.
out. I mean YouTube. Sorry, YouTube. That helps us out. We don't want to be picky though. We're just glad you guys, watch, even if it's on Facebook and chime in. But
Yeah.
really
Hey,
appreciate it. And yeah,
Valentine's Day this Friday. Don't forget, boys. Do something for your ladies. Don't want anyone getting hit by that. You guys are the best. Greendales on Saturday. Oh, maybe I'll take the wife to Greendales for the Valentine's
do it.
Day. I'm sure
They are
that's
amazing. Do it.
Jeff.
Absolutely.
As long as
We'll,
you watch the kids, we'll show up. I'll bring the kids. You can watch the kids.
bring them in there.
Uncle Kurt will take care of it. Thanks,
Uh,
guys. Great show. Later, Jeff Unknown. Good night.